Hi guys, good evening. Can you all hear me? Great. Okay, let's start the session. Are you all aware of what this session is all about? You can text in chat box. Yeah, birth suit. And we are going to discuss about post-speaker labs. Yes, exactly, Raj. Let me share my screen. Yeah, I think you all can see my screen. Great. Hello everyone and welcome to today's session on web hacking with Verbsuit and PortSpeaker. I'm Divya and I'm truly excited for here to talk to you all about hands-on and impactful area of cybersecurity with web application penetration testing. We all do web pen testing using a Verbsuit most of the times with the manual effect. Okay. Before we get started, I want you to see the stage. Like, we live in a world where almost every service we use is from the bank, healthcare, to shopping mall, and education. All of these services will run with a web application, right? Yeah, yes. Everything is running on web application. That also means attack surface of the hacker is mostly on the web application platforms, right? Organizations are consistently under the threat of cyber attacks are mostly on the web applications. So what the web application will give access to the hacker is to they can steal the data, they can take over the accounts, they can bring the systems down, even they can encrypt all of the data that was present in the application. This was the unfortunate truth, right? That's exactly brings us here today. Our goal of the session is to explore how the ethical hacking and security analysts and even the developers can use a Burpsuit tool and identify and understand those vulnerabilities. Not just theoretical, we'll have a hands-on session at the end of the session. I'll give you a simple demonstration, and in the next session, we'll deep dive into what are the concepts in the Burpsuit that we use to find vulnerabilities, right? And we also explore the Portugal apps as well, which is from the Security Academy, and it is free and legal platform where we can perform a real-time vulnerabilities and attacks. And yeah, let's start today's session. And it is designed as a practical and it is a beginner-friendly session that we are going to have. And this session is majorly focused on the Burpsuit tool and the options that was available in the Burpsuit tool to perform attacks. Okay, and we're gonna see how this Burpsuit is useful to find the real-time vulnerabilities in the web application. It was focused on the web application. Yeah, let's enter into the next slide and we'll know about what and web application means and the real-time applications that we do in the real-time application to perform vulnerabilities. Yeah, and let's know about why the web application security is important for the business. And every organization from startup to the large enterprises relies on the web application to serve the users, right? And they store the data, they'll give access to the users with that application, and they run their business operations in the with the help of web applications. They got apps that handle the sensitive information like usernames, passwords, payment details, health records, and more were stored in the web application, right? Because of these web applications are publicly accessible over the internet, they become easily targeted by the attackers. In fact, a web application are one of the most commonly attacked components of an organization's infrastructure. And you have probably heard about the major data breach like LinkedIn, Equifax, and the most of the all of those attackers are exploited the simple vulnerabilities that was available on the web applications, such as insecure input, broken authentication, and poor session handling, and access millions of user records with web application which was easily available and accessible to everyone. Now, the good news is that most of these attackers aren't because attackers using a powerful zero-day and nation-state tool, like they often succeed because of basic misconfigurations and poor coding practices. There are many misconfigurations in the web applications which lead to a simple vulnerability exposure, and and there is a zero-day exploit is also available with those simple vulnerabilities that was available online. Yeah, simple. I can tell you that a simple vulnerability in a web application can cause a great damage to your organization. So, and a poor code practice that will also lead to a major cause of data theft and all of the misconfigurations issues, and the attacker is going to break into your system and they can do whatever they want to do. And ethical hacking is also known as a penetration testing. It is a practice of legal testing of an application, right? And we find vulnerabilities before a attacker does. Like we need to think like a hacker when we are going to find the vulnerabilities, right? And knowing that tool is not enough, and we need to analyze and we need to think of how can we use this tool and the features of the tools that we can perform a web application. And there was a Portsfigure web application security, like web application security academy, which comes into the real time, and we tend to use them how the attackers are going to perform in the real time application. And with that Portsfigure labs we can perform cross-site scripting, basics of cross-site scripting to the advanced cross-site scripting, and it gives us a view how we can find broken access control in an application and the flaws in the web application. It helps us to give an hands-on idea of how we can perform the applications, right? And just beyond the theory, we'll go into practicals at the end of the session if the time permits, right? And today the goal is to not learning. It's like practically understand how what web application means and what the burp suit is and how we can use a burp suit to find the vulnerabilities in the web application and all. And this needs to be, you think, like a hacker while doing the attacks and all. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, this is the basic understand of burp suite web application. And as you all can see, there are the four features that was here. What is a burp suite means, and how we can intercept the traffic in the web application. And there was two editions that was available, which one is a free of cost, and another one is a payment that we need to do, which is a premium tool in the burp suite. Two types of tools that we can use as a burp suite. and and the burps, and we'll know how to enhance the ethical hacking using the burp suite. And now we have seen why the web application security is important. And let's talk about core tool, that is burp suite. The burp suite is like, it's one of the most widely used tools for web application pen testing, and it's designed specifically for security professionals and ethical hackers to help them identify, analyze the identified vulnerabilities, and exploiting the vulnerabilities that we have identified. It was a UK based company called Portswigger which was developed the Burpsuit tool. Give me a thumbs up if you're following, and ask me questions if you have any. Great, I can see a lot of thumbs up. And let's go step by step. First, what is a web application? And then why a web application security is important. And to maintain the security, how do we use burp suite to find vulnerabilities as an ethical hacker? And we'll go in a flow. Okay. And you know what? The burp suite was developed by Portswigger Labs founder, and they are the reason behind who have found the burp suite. And it was a UK based company. They not only build just the burp suite, then they have built a Portugal labs as well. How can we use a burp suite in a real time application? And let's go deep dive into what burp suite actually does. And as its core, the burp suite works as a man in the middle attack proxy. Like, for example, I'm giving you an example. You're sending an request to the YouTube, and you want to open the youtube.com, and you want to take, I mean, when you send the request, the how the request flow will be, and when you send the request from your computer, it will go to the server for the request, right? And now what you are doing is, the burp suite is a tool which acts as a man in the middle attack. Like, how you can imagine is like, you're sitting in between the and request and the actual server, right? Let me give you a picture of how you can create, correlate, like how the burp suite tool is in between. Let me copy paste this. Yeah, as you can see here, what you can see here, when you are sending a request from the browser to the website, what your Burbsuit tool is doing is, it's in the middle, right? When you send a request from the browser to the website, actual website, the website server, when you're sitting in your home and you're sending a request as a youtube.com, and it was going a request to the web application server. So what the Burbs tool is doing here is sitting in the middle, and middle man in the middle. It's sitting in the man in the middle. And what we are going to do is we are going to capture the request that we have sent, and we are going to analyze this request, and we are doing some modification to this request, and again sending back to the server. You got my point, right? It sits in between the browser and the target web application. And this request is sent as an HTTP request. I think you are all aware of what HTTP request means. HTTP and HTTPS. Come on, guys. And tell me what are the protocols that was used for the HTTP and HTTPS? Come on. Do you ever know what the port that we use for HTTP and HTTPS? Yes, it's secure and unsecure channel. And we use 80 port for, yeah, 80 port for HTTP or HTTPS request. Yes, exactly. Yes, 80 for HTTP and HTTP. Yes, we used for 443. Good. For example, I can give you an example how this real time works. So, for example, imagine you're logging in a website, suppose Instagram. You're logging in a website of an Instagram, and come on, guys, like I'm asking you a question. If you want to log into a website, what is the method that we use? Post, put, what are the requests that we send? Post? Is that so? Yes, open authentication. Yes. It's not put? Yeah. Yeah. Imagine you're logging in a website, Instagram, and your browser sends a post request with your username and the password. And the burp suit is running in the middle, right? It will intercept the request and before reaching to the server, and you can actually make modifications in the value. For example, you're logging in to your account, for example user 1, and the password is 123, and you can actually capturing the request, you can actually modify the request as user 2, user 3, and you can change the password as whatever you want to. Imagine your friend is sending a request to the Instagram, he wants to log in with his account. Imagine you're in the middle and you're going to steal his password, right? These are all the things that we can do in the middle in the middle concept with the burp suit. And burp suit also offers several, you know, powerful tools and operations that we can do in the real time. Let me share this my presentation again. Yeah. Yes. So we have talked about what burp suit is in the real time scenarios, how we can find vulnerabilities in web application, and we have seen through image how it will capture a request from your browser to the website. And let me tell you, there are like two editions that was available in the Burp Suit. Like one is community edition and another one is professional edition. Like community edition, it was the free and includes the core features like proxy, intruder, decoder, and all of the main features was available in community edition, and it's perfect for learning and manual testing. And whereas professional editions, which was paid, and it adds some additional features which it will give some automated scripts and automated vulnerability detection tools, and it will give some more powerful features that will enable to find vulnerabilities in the real time. And for our session today, we'll be using a community edition, which was a free edition, which was used for the learning. And we can, and it was accessible to everyone. You can also install a burp suite and you can use it for the real time. It's more enough for learning the fundamentals, and community edition is enough to solve all of the Portugal labs. Let's deep dive into the actual features of burp suite and the different tool, and it's known as a different tool and the more impactful tool which helps us to find vulnerabilities in web application pen test. Let's go to the next slide of the key features of burp suite. Yeah, you can see all here. It's the key features that we can use for the web application pen testing. One is proxy, repeater, intruder, scanner, decoder, comparer, and extender. And let me ask you, what if I want to do a brute force attack, which option that I can use and which burp suite tool that I can use? Yes. Intruder? Intruder is going to solve the burp suite issues in the web application? Repeater? No. Yes, it's intruder. And you can all see here, these are the four tools that we actively use in the burp tool. And this was used for data handling. And can you all tell me which concept, like which data handling tool that we can actually use for encryption and decryption? Yes, decoder. What actually we can do with the decoder? We can copy paste the encrypted code and we can decode it by using a few popularly known algorithms which was available in the burp suite. Not all the decoders, like not all the algorithms that was available, but there are few algorithms, most commonly used algorithms that was available which we can use for decoding. And what does the comparer will do? What can we actually do with the comparer? Yes, A, yes, and D, yes, yes. And what actually we can do with the comparer? Yes, spot the differences. Yes, we can spot the differences. Like we can compare to request that was a request and the response, and we can compare the two requests. Yes, and spot what was the request. And yeah, we can actually spot the key differences between the two requests and two responses or what we are getting actually. And what is extender? Yes, what customization extender means? Yes, yes. It was basically a plugins, and there are plugins are like extra features that we want to use, and we can simply install a plugin and we can use it while performing the vulnerabilities. Imagine a plugins are like extensions that we use for the Chrome and all. Yeah, adds extensions like Java. Yeah, and imagine a plugins are like extensions that we are using in a Chrome. Like in extensions that we use, Grammarly extensions we can use, and we can use lot many extensions in the real time, right? In the Chrome. For example, Vaplizer, which we are using the plugins and adding some more value to what we are doing. Yeah, yeah, unblock horizon. All of your answers are correct. Yes, yes. And let me give you a simple example what proxy means here. And these are the four main important tools that we use in the real-time burp suite application. And the proxy is the heart of the burp suite. Okay, it sits between the browser and the application server, which allows you to intercept, modify anything request, and your all burp suite request will come to here in the proxy. And for example, I'll show you at the end how this proxy is helpful. And second one is the repeater. A repeater, it's like we are manually modifying a request of HTTP. For example, we are modifying values in the request, like IDOR we can modify, and everything we can do. And what with intruder that we can do? Intruder, like it was an automated attacks that we are performing online. Like it's an automated, I mean, all the automated scripts and all of the automated attacks, and we can use those automated scripts using a intruder. And a scanner procs, it is also like an intruder, but we can actually use it for finding XSS, SQL, and open redirection and everything. Let me share my screen and tell you how the burp suite actually looks like. So no worries, I'll show you at the end, which will be fine. And let's go to next slide, what the porch figure means. Yeah. Let's discover what the porch figure labs is useful for our ethical hacking. Now we have understood what the web application means, the web application security, and we have learned about what the burp suite means and the features of burp suite. And it is an academy. It has dozens of labs that we can solve in the real time. Like it has a labs, as we need to solve the labs, and it involves like we need to find a vulnerability in application, then the lab one is solved. For example, if you find a cross-site scripting vulnerability in an application, and the lab one is solved, and the lab two which contains SQL injection, and you need to solve the SQL injection, and there is like different set of flats from the beginner to the advanced, where you can solve beginner, intermediate, and advanced level of labs. Like solving one by one lab will, which actually give you an overall understanding how we can find a vulnerabilities in the real time, and you'll get a points for solving each lab. And the lab includes finding vulnerabilities such as cross-site scripting, SQL injection, business logic vulnerabilities, and more. And it's an actually interacting with the lab to solve the issues. Yeah. And for example, you can also find a weakness in the web application, such as bypassing the login authentication with SQL injection. And we can also steal the session cookies using a stored XSS. I think you are all aware of what stored XSS means. First of all, tell me how many types of XSS are. Yes, three types of XSS. Good, Sagar. I think you are only one following. Yeah. Give me a thumbs up if you're following, or you can ask any questions that you want to ask in the chat box. Yeah, if you don't know, also it's fine. We'll go into it deeply. What a XSS means basically. Yeah. What do you mean by XSS? It's a cross-site scripting vulnerability that we can find in a web application, and which is a web application security vulnerability. And it's like we are injecting a code like a payload that we craft in any language of programming language, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, in any of the languages. And yeah, it's a malicious code that we are inserting in the web application. Yeah, it's a malicious code that we are inserting in the web application to find the vulnerabilities. Yeah, it's a script that we are injecting and executing. Yeah, malicious scripts were injected in the input field of an any application. For example, when you're logging in Instagram account, there is a username and the password fields, right? So in the field, though in those fields, we are going to inject a malicious script. And after logging into the Instagram, how can we find? I mean, tell me how many input fields were there in the Instagram after logging into the Instagram? Yeah, we can use stored, reflected, DOM accesses, and we are majorly inserting all of this script in the input field. Yeah, script tag which will generate an alert. Yeah, to insert an XSS payload, you actually need to have an input field. While you're logging into the Instagram, there is, yeah, correct. There are two input fields, the username and the password. Two, right. After logging into the Instagram, what are the input fields that you can actually see? You can search your friend's account, that is an input field. Yeah, and you can post anything you want, that is also an input field that you're posting. All of these things will come under the input field. I think here all clear. And let's go to the next slide, how we can actually set up a burp suit. Yeah. As you all can see here, and this is the structure way step by step that you need to configure your burp suit proxy for the Portugal lab. And first thing you need to do is to install the community edition, which was available in the Kali Linux already by default. And first you need to install the community edition, and and then you don't need to be a professional version of the burp suit. The community edition is fine for doing the Portugal lab, and then you need to configure the burp suit to the Portugal. How you can do that? You can do by installing a burp suit, and you need to configure a browser with 127.0.0.1 local host, and this SSL we need to configure. I'll give you a demo how we can configure this lab setup for the Portugal, and you can begin with the labs. And this is the local host that we need to configure for the burp suit. And we need to create an account, and then we need to solve the labs, right? And make sure you're signing in to the Portugal lab with a random mail ID, not actually with your mail ID. Yeah, you can after doing your, I mean, in your Kali Linux, burp suite is already available. After then, you need to configure the localhost proxy, and then you need to configure SSL certificate, and then you need to create an burp suite account and doing the labs, right? And these labs are very short and interactive, and which build you a confidence in finding a vulnerabilities and doing in the real time attacks. And let's go to the next slide. And this is the hands-on demo of the burp suite features. And here we are going to see how we can intercept a login request using a proxy, and we can modify and resend by using a repeater, and we can find a brute force vulnerabilities in the intruder, and solving the Portugal apps, and decode the session tokens as well. And these are the features that we can do in the burp suite, as I already discussed about you. And these are few vulnerabilities labs that was available in the Portugal. And I think you all know what SQI injection, SQ XSS, and broken access, CSRF, and these are exploitation techniques that we are going to use. I think you're all available of all what all of these vulnerabilities are. Give me a thumbs up if you're following. Yeah, great. I'll explain you if you have any doubts in these vulnerabilities or techniques that you're going to use. Comment in the chat box, guys. If you want to ask anything, or else we'll go into the next slide. Yeah, like how can we maximize the most use of the burp suite? Like we need to find the scope, and the first and foremost that we need to test the scope, and burp suite allows us to target the scope, and we can utilize Firefox extension, and we can test a legal and only authorized targets, and we can customize the extensions. How can we use the extensions in the worksuit? By using plugins, as I have already told you. And first thing you need to do is to define a scope, means take a target URL, and then you need to set up a Firefox proxy, and then you need to test for the vulnerabilities which was authorized and legal, and then you need to customize your extensions if you need any. And let's go to the next slide. Yeah, these are the essential resources for the web hacking. One, you can take a screenshot of this, which was very useful. And these were the resources for the web hacking, which was a Portswigger Academy that I have already told you now. And another one is OAP's top 10. These are the vulnerabilities. OAP's top 10 vulnerabilities means these are the vulnerabilities that was real-timely caught by the hackers, and these are the vulnerabilities which was found by the hackers real time, and these are the top 10 vulnerabilities that most of the applications are having. You can simply go to the Google and type OAP's top 10 vulnerabilities. It gives you a list of the vulnerabilities, and you can focus majorly on those vulnerabilities if you're performing an ethical hacking. And you can always go to a YouTube channel for how we can configure a burp suit, how we can do a burp suit, I mean, brute force attack, SQL injection, XSS, and everything. And there is always a burp suit docs, which is a manual guide that we can follow how it is going. I mean, how what are the features and how can we use each and all every option very effectively, right? And I want you all to log into the Portspeaker Academy and set up your burp suit to the Firefox and do all. And let me share my screen to the Kali Linux. Have you all installed Kali Linux, guys? I have gave you a hands-on session how to install a Kali Linux. And what have you done after installing Kali Linux? Have you started anything? Great. Yeah, let me share my. This was a Kali Linux UI, and first thing I'm doing is to open a burp suite. How can you uh, connect a burp suite to a Firefox? First thing you need to do is to open the burp suite. It's taking a bit time to load. You can ask if you have any questions in the meantime. In meantime, you can ask me any questions if you have any. Yes, you can always prepare for OSCP. CH is a bit harder. It's taking a bit time to learn. And what we can do in the meantime is how we can set up a port figure is opening a Chrome extension. Yeah, how can we install a burp suite? It was already available in the Kali Linux. If you install the Kali Linux, it was easily available. Sorry guys, it's taking more than the time it was expected. Yes. What you can do here is you can simply open a website from here, or you can connect this Firefox to what, what I'm doing now here is I'm opening browser from here. I have already set up a Burpsuit to the Firefox connection, and how you can do is you can after opening a Burpsuit, and what you need to do. um, Yeah, what you can do is you need to go to HTTP burp, and it will give you a page here. And what you need to do here is to download this CA certificate, which I have downloaded recently, and it's downloaded again. And after downloading this CA certificate, after first thing you need to do is to open your Kali Linux and open the Burpsuit tool, and then later you need to open a burp http hyphen slash slash burp, and then it will open a UI like this, and you need to download this CA certificate just by clicking on it, and then you need to go to the settings and search for XY, Yes, you need to first set up this box. It was showing because I have already set up. Um, you need to type a certificate. It was showing all of these because I have already imported a certificate. Here you can see a CA was certificate was imported. You can go to a YouTube video how we can set up this Firefox with Burp Suite. Or else you can actually open this open browser, or it has opened this browser. And let me open an Instagram account. I'm making this turn on the intercept on an Instagram account. Yeah. After when I click on Instagram account, it was showing here a get request, right? Which means we are simply getting the request, and let me give it this link. Let me close this. And what I'm actually doing on now is turning on the intercept to get a request. Now I'm simply typing Instagram. Now you can see a request here, right? Give me a thumbs up if you're following, or ask me if you have any questions. I think you are all getting what I'm doing, right? Now what I'm doing is I'm forwarding. Yeah, I'm clicking on here login. Yeah. Now I'm typing here user one and the password as 12345. Yeah, now I'm turning the when you want to capture a request of the any application that you're using, you need to first turn on the intercept and then capture the request, right? Now I'm telling to log in and we need to forward all of the traffic. Sorry guys, it's taking a bit more time. Yeah, here the performance. Yes. When you click on login to the Instagram account, entering some random username and password, you can see here a post request. You can see here a post request and where my credentials will be stored here. Let me search for my username. This business does not contain. There are many post requests that was forwarding to the Instagram account. Let me forward all. Sometimes it's happened, guys. It's taking more time than expected. Yeah. For example, this is the request that we are posting. Post means we are giving an input parameter to the application and we are sending a request, right? And this, for example, this is the post request. This is the request that we are sending from the Instagram account to the server. And what are all we can do? We can always sorry. And we can always right click on the request and we can send to the intruder, which will we can go up here and we can edit the request and we can start an attack like the burp suit attack and everything. For example, there is an here application ID, right? For this application ID, I can add this symbol that was showing. First, we need to add a position that we know we need to do a attack, and we need to paste a payload here. Like, what are the application IDs that we want to edit and send a request, and then we need to start an attack. That's what we do with intruder. While from the proxy, all of the requests that you need to capture here from the proxy, and then you need to send to intruder, repeater, or sequencer, decoder, whichever you want to do. And if I send the request to repeater, what is going to happen? Tell me what will happen if I send a request to the repeater. Don't worry, I'll let you know. Yeah, after sending a request to the right clicking and sending to the repeater, it will go directly here. And if you send a request, you can see an automated response from here. And this is the request that we are sending from the proxy to the repeater and doing some modification and resending it again. For example, the application ID, I am entering some random number and all the input fields that I can change here and I can send. And you will get a response of what you have actually done and the response from the server. And in the intruder we can do an attacks and from the repeater we can actually modify the input fields and everything and we can send and we can see the response. And what can we do with sequencer? If we right click and go to the sequencer, it will directly go here, and we can here capture a live request. Like we can enter here n number of requests, and we can actually start an attack at a time. Like sequentially, we can perform n number of operations by using a sequencer. And from the proxy, and all you need to do is you need to capture request that you're sending, and you need to send this request to whichever thing you need to go, intruder, repeater, sequencer, comparer, decoder, anything you need to send to these options, and you need to do whatever you want to do with these ones, intruder, repeater, sequencer, and whatnot, everything. You can do uh, anything with these options. Yeah, and you can always use UI in whichever you want to. See, we are sending a HTTP, and it was a post method that was shown here on the inspector. Inspector means extra information we are getting about this request. Okay, and the we can see what are the body parameters, headers that being used, and the request cookie. Yeah. And please let me know if you have any doubts. In the next session, we are going to deep dive into each of the options and perform some real-time applications with using a port figure. And we can go to the port figure and do whatever we want to do with the burp suit and solving the labs. And meanwhile, you set up a burp suit with the port figure and start doing the labs. Let's connect in the next session with the practical examples of burp suit. Please let me know if you have any questions in the chat box. You can ask your questions if you have any. Please ask your queries if you have any regarding burp suit, Kali Linux, or any